Good morning, Southern Arizona. You're welcome to the Marketing Corner. I am your host, Sean Campbell, and if you had not had your coffee yet this morning, you will not need it with today's special guest. He is going to bring the energy as he always does. And another prerequisite for the show, you are not allowed to be any part of the show unless your name rhymes with mine. That's why we got Juan JD Delgado. Put you right there.
There you go, right here.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, we got to make sure that I
There you
speak
go.
into the mic.
Yeah. I mean, John is the engineer, of course, and then we got special guest today, Don Zavis. So the Juan, Don, John, and who else?
Sean,
Juan, Don.
Yeah, Sean, John,
We got to be
Juan, and
careful.
Don.
We're going to get kicked off the show. Don Zavis, are you there?
I am right here. Thank you so much, gentlemen. I was looking forward to this.
How you doing today? Everything good?
Well, thank you. Absolutely no. I love this idea. I love the idea of focusing in on marketing, especially now coming into
Yeah.
2025, because the whole world's been sitting on the sidelines for the last year or two. And my opinion is that if you're going to make it happen in 2025, you better be doing something.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for me personally, this has been a tremendous first few weeks of the year. Very busy every single day on the weekends. There's stuff going on. Potential new sponsor for the show. Little inside, information on there. But I mean, if you're a small business owner, entrepreneur, I would say some more industries than others. But I think the economy is picking up. Consumer confidence is picking up. Again, I'm not taking one side of the, it's just not a political show by any means. Just kind of calling it like it is, But I think you need to be buckled in and ready to go. What are your thoughts, JD?
Actually, man, my end of the year, freaking right
Yeah.
over the top.
Yeah.
Boy, I was just crushing it.
Yeah.
So I hit my gross revenue goal and actually surpassed it for 2024.
Nice.
And my and I've talked to Don about this. What I do though, it's my MO. It's when I hit that, sometimes I take my foot off the gas, and that's the thing. I need to keep it on the gas.
Yeah.
So like the last 2 weeks, I just been working on some development on infrastructure for the business because I have I'm almost looking at about 50 to 80% growth for this upcoming year.
Wow.
That's my goal.
Yeah. And Juan JD is owner of Roofs Are Hot, by the way.
Right.
Don Zavis, explain what you do.
Well, I'm a sales trainer and sales coach, so I travel around the world and I teach people how to sell.
Yeah. So the question for the audience today, for Don in particular, audience, when you're listening out
Is
there,
his hair, right?
I've had so many Van Halen songs in my head today, coming ready for this because Don always plays Van Halen before his events.
I do.
He does.
I do. I'm an aging heavy metal guitar player, and what I found is that almost regardless of who you are or where you are, you always skewed positively to Van Halen bumper music.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. It gets me going.
Hey, we should actually have a name for your hair. We got to work on that. We got to work because it has its own personality. So we got to work on that, Don.
Actually, that was a point of interest at a networking event that I hosted yesterday.
I saw that.
That was hilarious.
Story for another day. But,
Yeah.
That was great.
I always believe that imitation is the sincerest form of flattery.
Absolutely. So getting back to the question I have for the audience, guys. If you're a small business owner, entrepreneur, if you're in marketing, tell us what makes you a good salesperson. I mean, that's the question, you guys. I want you guys to call us and, if you have a question about your, sales ability, what's your biggest asset? What's your biggest challenge as a salesperson? So Don, from your experience, when you sign on new clients or you have a new seminar, when you're a guest speaker somewhere, what are some of the biggest opportunities we have in general with our sales?
Well, I believe it's being relentless. And I know that sounds kind of like a mercenary word to say. I've got a little sign that I have on my mirror that says, I will do today what others will not, so I can live tomorrow as others cannot. And what that means, and for example, it's Saturday morning. I was at my home office at 5 o'clock in the morning. And I've had people, that now, I'm not saying you have to be as maniacal as I am,
Right.
but I tell people all the time, getting rich is hard. That's
Yeah.
why so few people are. It's a 24-hour a day, 7-day a week effort, and for the people that focus on that direction, I believe they will likely be successful.
Yeah. You make a good point right there. You mentioned that you're in your office at 5 a.m., but I remember one of our first shows with attorney Meredith Martyr, and she realizes that she's not a morning person, and she actually doesn't get started till 11, right? So we're all in our different cycles of the day, so to speak. So by no means, I myself, I'm up at 5 also, but I understand not everybody's wired that way. So,
But those people, though, they're gonna work till freaking 3 a.m.
yeah.
I mean, because I have another one of my buddies, highly successful entrepreneur, real estate, he's custom home builder.
Yeah.
But man, he'll grind it out like 3 a.m.
Yeah.
He's grinding. Like
Yeah.
like his peak is. He actually works out. I think he works out like 8 p.m., 9
Wow.
p.m.
Yeah. Yeah. That kind of brings me up. Reminds me this week, 3 people asked me if they wanted to give me their tickets for the Baylor game. I'm like, I'm asleep by 8:30, 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
Were you one of them? No, you weren't.
Well, no, but I
Yeah.
had some people offering.
Yeah.
It's like, man, that's
Yeah. So Wednesday at 9, I'm a half hour into my deep sleep, dude. Don, what are some of the things that that you see that are always kind of positives? I mean, we talked about some opportunities.
Sure. Well, one of the things that I'm telling everyone, especially nowadays in 2025, is we live in this kind of now economy. What have you done for me yesterday? And the fact that you did a great job for somebody last week, last month, last year is no guarantee they're going to pick up the phone and call you again. Even though they loved your work, they were very happy. So that top-of-mind awareness is critical, and there's a phraseology that we use for those that are in sales and taking notes. If you want somebody to look at you, you've got to do something worth looking at. An event, webinar, something. If you want someone to listen to you, you've got to say something worth listening to.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, so many of the world is, they're great at keeping themselves a secret.
Yeah. And I'm going to, not push back a little bit at that on Don, but one of the things that I always preach is, you and I have talked about this, 80% of your revenue comes 20% of your clients. And you're 100% right, Don, is that what have you done from now lately? But it's your job. It's the first thing I always preach with a new client. What are we doing to take care of that 80%? The 20% is bringing in 80% of your revenue, right? Sure. So you need to be in front of them all the time. You can't just rest on your laurels and your merits, It could be a simple, email marketing, consistent, drip to your current clientele. SMS, text message marketing, little reminders, stuff like that to keep in front of them and keep your appreciation in front of them.
Well, and it's just like I started that new business, that maintenance business, because I do a roof for a customer, but they have neighbors, family, friends, and I want to stay in front of them. So doing the yearly maintenance, gives me another opportunity to touch and be in front of them.
You should offer discounts on the roofs that you do if you're allowed to paint your phone number on the roof.
For all the people flying
with your
the drones.
logo, with your logo.
Actually, I have a partner that I work with. He does roof coatings, and he'll actually put on the roof in a different color. God is good.
Really?
Oh yeah, he takes pictures. He puts it on social media. Puts it on Facebook. All the time,
you're one of our sponsors, Juan, and you chose Don to be our special guest today. Why? And not Don's great. Don't get me wrong. I love you, Don. Right? But why did you choose Don?
It's the hair.
No,
come on,
but
man.
He's not
it's
in
the
studio.
hair.
It's not in studio. There's got to be a special reason. And we're under 2 minutes to the break, Don. Just to give you a heads up. But why? Why Don Zavis?
It's no nonsense.
Yep.
Sales coaching.
Yep.
I mean, it's easy and it makes sense.
Yeah.
It's not like all these different. It's like, hey, one of the best business or sales modules that he has is if you're not going to make a sale, when do you want to know? You want to know up front.
Yeah. One thing I love about Don's style is that he just says it like it is, and if he offends you, that's more on you than him. I mean, that's the truth. I mean, every single presentation I've been to, every single networking event that he's hosted, he's always going to say something that makes you feel uncomfortable. And Don, that's one of the things I appreciate about you. You tell it like
Thank
it
you.
is. You tell it like it is, and that's
I don't think anybody I don't think anybody benefits from getting smoke blown at them.
yeah.
And in a practical sales world, it is what it is. I mean,
Yeah.
if they need a new roof and it's $5,000 and Juan says, hey, it's $5,000,
Yeah.
it is what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't make any sense to.
Yeah.
They may not be happy about it, but it is what it is. And again,
Yeah.
if I'm not going to make a sale,
Yeah.
I want to know right away.
Right. Hey, Don. So we're at the end of our first segment. We're going to be back in a few minutes, but I want to thank everybody for listening to the Marketing Corner. Call in your questions, 520-790-2040. We are back with the Marketing Corner. I am your host, Sean Campbell, with special co-host Juan J.D. Delgado. Roofs are hot. And our special guest today, Don Zavis, sales trainer extraordinaire. You there, Don?
We
Don
better-
Zavis, there he is.
I was a little taken back by the sales trainer extraordinaire.
Well, you
Thank
are.
so much.
You are.
I am somewhat self-effacing when it comes to compliments, but they're always greatly appreciated.
Yeah.
Truly appreciated.
Yeah. Don, you used to have, you've moved on to your Wednesday morning networking event to Oro Valley, right? So give the audience an update on where that's at and how that is going for you.
Yeah. No, I'd be happy to. And so I want to make sure everybody realizes that it actually hasn't moved on. The events that are happening at the Sands Club are still happening. And we absolutely positively, the plan always was that myself and John Wechter would start it, and then after a couple of years, it would go to somebody else. There needs to be that fresh blood. It can't be the Don Zavis show constantly. So we had passed the torch at the Sands Club, which is wonderful. In fact, I'll be there next Wednesday. And then the goal was to utilize the private clubs in the Tucson area. We have a relationship with the Skyline Country Club, obviously the Arizona Sands Club, and I had a relationship with the Oro Valley Country Club. And they were very kind to say, hey, listen, you really don't have any presence here in the northwest area of Tucson, Marana area. Would you consider doing something here? And my thought was like, yeah, more than my next breath. So it was a very, very easy connection.
Yeah, Don, what makes a really good salesperson a great one? What takes that person who's pretty good at sales up to that next level where they're just elite, an A player?
Sure. Well, I believe that it's focus, and selling is as much of an art as it is a science. And I find that most people, professional people, will take great lengths to be experts in their industry. So if you're a CPA, you have to go through additional required training. If you're a doctor or a lawyer, really almost every teacher, almost every industry that if you're a mechanic, you have to have ongoing training.
Yeah.
Sales is really the only one that I call, in terms of professional, that there could be anybody. Right? I mean, you aren't obligated to do anything, and most people, again, don't do anything. And as a result of that, they really don't hone their skills. And I believe, much of what we talk about is the understanding of human dynamics, which is kind of an understanding of how people react given a certain set of stimulus. So much of my training also, is psychological, almost bordering on the psychiatric. That if you understand how people react, you can generally understand the most effective ways to communicate your value proposition to them.
Yeah, audience, if you're out there, tell us what makes you a good salesperson. 520-790-2040. We'd love to hear your input on this. It's a very intriguing topic because it goes so many different directions, right? I like to get into the psychology of it all. What makes me good, and why do I suck some days when it comes to actually my presentation? Juan, what makes you a good salesperson?
Listening.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like I work with some of, and what I recognized is when jobs go sideways is when they're not listening.
Yeah.
And they will tell you everything that they want and that they need if you ask the right questions.
Right. I know some people, and I'll bet Don is the opposite of my technique. But when I'm in a sales presentation in that environment with somebody and I'm going to sign up a new prospect, and disagree with me if you do actually disagree with me, Don, but I try to do only 20% of the talking and let that
There you
prospect
go.
do 80%. Is that something that you think is accurate?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We say 30-70, but,
Okay.
but 80-20, if you give people the opportunity to talk, there's a thing called conversational gravity.
Mm.
And what that means is the more that people talk, the more they want to talk.
Mm-hmm.
And if you give them exactly what Juan said, if you give them the bandwidth to do that, they will tell you everything that you need to know. Just by giving them the opportunity to talk. Now, when I say 30-70, so if you're on an hour meeting, that doesn't mean you speak for the first 20 minutes. You want to have your conversation.
Yeah.
Most people
I've done
they'll sit down with
Yeah.
a prospect and open up their 6-inch D-ring binder and start on page 1. It's like let me tell you about my Nimbus 3000. People are narcissistic. They care about themselves. They don't. I hasten to say this, but they don't care about you, but they care about themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So if you ask them,
Yeah.
amazingly enough, they will tell you.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you want to share some of your Juan? Do you want to share some of the sales presentations gone wrong?
Oh
Do you have a
gosh,
few?
man. Well, I just met with a customer of mine,
Mm.
or of ours. We were closing up the job, and I had to go over there because it started going sideways with the final billing. So I had to go over there and talk to her. And I had my other project manager take care of it,
Mhm.
or work the whole job, and he just didn't listen up front. And
Yeah,
then he was
yeah.
trying to tell me about all these added stuff that he did,
Yeah.
and it's like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
She said this right up front from the very beginning.
Right.
So it doesn't matter if you're doing all that other stuff.
Yeah.
This is what she said.
Yeah. I'm gonna. I probably shouldn't share this story.
Let's
'cause
hear it then. Now we really got to hear
half
it.
of the audience is gonna, and I apologize ahead of time, but way back early in my marketing career,
Mm-hmm.
I was a representative for a local. This is called an auto glass company, right? So my job was to go out and meet all the insurance agents.
Oh,
in
you were one of
town.
those auto glass sales
Yeah,
guys.
That's where I met Edmund Marcus back in the day, right?
Yep.
So I walked into this office, I hit it off with this agent.
Mm-hmm.
It was a perfect presentation. I listened. I was excited because it was known that she was a hard person to, get
Yeah.
through,
Mhm.
and she doesn't do referrals and blah, blah,
Mhm.
blah. I could have just walked out and said good afternoon, but before I left, what is the dumbest thing a guy could say? So, by the way, when are you due?
Oh, snap.
Yeah.
No, you didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she wasn't, right?
Oh,
So, yeah.
no.
Yeah. Even I could feel Don's disappointment through the phone line right now.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
You probably heard me clutching my heart. All right, so there's a thing called
Yeah.
never answer the unasked question.
Yep. Yeah.
And what that means is that all too many times for whatever reason, lapse in consciousness, who knows, decide that we're going to say something that really isn't relevant. I'll give you a very, very, 30,
I was trying to
30
build
seconds.
more rapport, be cool, really
Yeah,
just,
and
Take
Well,
it and go.
Go. You're right, and therein lies
Go.
the rub. I'll give you the
Yeah.
worst example in my situation. So I have clients that hire me to go out on sales calls with them, the actual visit
Oh, wow.
to their clients.
Wow.
Now, as long as the client is okay with that, or the prospect's okay with that, I come. I'm just there to observe. I'm really not involved in the conversation.
yeah.
So I'm at one, and the guy is he's calling on a client. They sell printing services, and we get done. Everything is great. Pricing is great. They're happy. Wonderful rapport. They're talking about delivery schedules, and they're literally right at the end. The salesperson says, and I guess you're wondering, how we can do it for such a great price. Is that we offshore all of our work.
Oh gosh.
Now, right when we walked in, the sign over the front door, enormous sign says, "We are a proudly union house."
Yeah.
And
Oh, wow.
needless
Wow.
to say, you could see the guy's face literally, it physically turned red.
Yeah.
And he says, yeah, well, if that's the case, we have a company policy. Now, could that have come out in the future?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Right,
Do I tell you to
right.
conceal critical? No, I would never conceal that. But he didn't ask that. He
Yeah,
didn't say,
yeah.
hey, by the way, how can you do it for such a great? Never answer the unasked question.
Yeah.
Do
yeah.
not offer suggestions.
Yeah.
Be very wary about your compliments. Again, their agenda is their agenda. If it's important to them, they'll bring it up. If telling you that she was pregnant was important to her, she might say, hey, listen, I want to make sure I get this wrapped up. I go on maternity leave.
Yeah.
Then, and only then, can you say that.
Yeah, so I mean, Tucson, I hope you realize I give you my all every Saturday. If that doesn't but that vulnerability of me telling that
There you
story,
go.
I mean, geez, I don't know what else do you guys want from me, Tucson? I give you the
Well,
good, the bad, the ugly on the show.
I think that's important. I mean,
It is, yeah,
I will
yeah.
tell you. Yeah, in a sales situation, the vast majority of situations do not result in a sale.
Right.
The vast majority
right.
of selling situations
Yeah.
result in a lost sale. So you want to spend. I
Yeah.
actually spend
Yeah.
more time with people, on where things went bad,
Yeah.
as opposed to where things went good. Because
Yeah.
going back to the psychiatric and psychological,
Mm-hmm.
we learn as human beings more from the negative. You only had to
Interesting.
touch that hot
Yeah.
stove once to understand hot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? You didn't need you get 3 years old, hot. I got that down pat. I never need to have an example again ever for the remaining 90 years of my life. I never have to have another reinforced example of hot.
Yeah. You kind of hit upon, I always put things in sports analogies. I think you and I have talked about this, JD, a few times. It's like, if you're a Hall of Famer in baseball, it means that you failed 7 out of 10 times at the plate, and to Don's, what the point he's making now, it's like, you gotta learn from the previous at bat, what did the pitcher do to me? How he could get me out, and try not to make that same mistake again. Right. So, I believe the same is in business and in particular sales. You're going to fail much more often than you succeed, right? Otherwise, we'd all be small business owners. We'd all be millionaires.
And that's why relentlessness
Yeah.
and the ability to bounce back. I mean, they're not rejecting you as a person; they're rejecting
Yeah.
your role
Yeah.
as a salesperson for your entity. So, being relentless, to me, is the number one. If you get 10 no's, it's damn hard to get back with a smile on your face,
Right.
for the
Right.
11th conversation. But
Yeah.
the real successful people are able to do that.
Yeah, we're under a minute left until the next break, Don. So, but in wrapping up this last segment, again, if you're an audience out there, you got a question for Don. Don's a genius when it comes to your sales. So if you have any questions for Don, and a question for
Genius is a strong word.
it is, yeah, it is. But hey, take the compliment, Don.
There you go.
I'll take the. Oh, come on. Yeah, I'll
All
take
right.
it, please.
All right, we're heading to the last, our second commercial break. We appreciate you guys listening to the Marketing Corner. I'm your host, Sean Campbell. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the last half of the Marketing Corner. I am your host, Sean Campbell, with my co-host today, Juan J.D. Delgado from Roofs Are Hot.
Not so much today.
Not so much today.
Not so much today. It's pretty darn cold out there.
Yeah,
I think the
yeah.
high is going to be what?
Well, 63, I think.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah, and our special guest today, Don Zavis. And calling in, you're up in Oro Valley, right, Don?
I am.
Yeah, so, yeah, again, thank you for being on. Juan and I were just
No,
talking.
it's my pleasure.
Yeah, Juan and I were just talking about, and we can't go a show without talking about AI. Have you dove any into AI yet, Don?
A little bit. I have a couple of AI clients. I think the issue with AI, it sets a challenging precedent.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that professional selling is the face-to-face, eye-to-eye, belly-to-belly business.
Right, right.
I think as long as two human beings are involved, that you're going to need the salesperson. I
Yep.
believe that a capable, competent, and trained salesperson is the living brochure. They're the best thing for a salesperson, or excuse me, best thing for a prospect or a client. Now, what AI does, however, is it looks for the best of the best of the best, and then constantly reinvents it. with new, increasingly valuable information.
Yeah.
So what's happening is people are not investing in their sales force. There is this perception that AI is the silver bullet that will take out the world of the salesperson. And it works relentlessly, never calls in sick, never has a 3-martini lunch, never cuts out early on Friday, always says the right thing the right
right.
Exactly. Always says the right thing the right way. The reality is that that's never going to be the case. I think it's a great tool for certain developmental tasks, but I don't think there's ever a replacement. I'm really strongly cautioning the people in my world to say, look, you know what? You really want to think twice about this. You should be investing in your sales person budget,
right?
Not the opposite.
Yeah.
So I was reading an article about the story about a solar salesman burnout. And, as you know, some of these solar, they went right back to the grassroots, soliciting and knocking on doors, in order to get the sale face to face. Yeah. And what they were talking about, if you can get through that door, that's a $5,000 door. If you can get through that door,
interesting.
And talk to that homeowner. Yeah. But what they were talking about is the sales burnouts. The burnout was the sale, you'd get the initial upfront appointment sale, but then it wouldn't go through.
Interesting.
Or they would cancel.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Back on the, AI topic, by Wednesday of next week, I will have my Meta Ray-Bans.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. I needed to upgrade my prescription, so I went to Dr. Jake, Tucson Optometry over on Broadway. Right. Tremendous staff, really cool guy. And got my prescription updated. So I took the dive and I invested into the Meta Ray-Bans, who are, there's a lot of AI integrated in this, right? So I'll have a report with everybody in a couple of weeks on how I'm using them. And in particular, what I do. I'm in marketing. Social media is kind of my, lane, so to speak. And I'm very looking forward to see how it makes me more effective and efficient with the content that I put out there. Right?
So are you able to just touch it and it starts taking a video? Or
what I believe, video, photographs. I could also take phone calls. I could look at a structure, a historic building, for example, and ask, the AI component of it to teach me more about this building. When was it built? The architect behind it and stuff like that. So, so I'm really curious to see and I won't be here next week. David Bradley will be hosting the show. I'll be in Barrett Jackson. So I'll have my glasses during Barrett Jackson.
Right on.
So I can't wait to get that. I get a lot of content out there, obviously, but I'm looking forward to that.
So you're going to be able to look at a car and ask the AI to give you information on the car?
Yeah.
Or what about a person? You can look at a person. Hey, give me information about that.
There was a Harvard Business Review about that. And I guess somebody was on campus and he had that on and he was learning about everybody that he was walking by, I believe. So I will not do that, obviously.
Sure, you won't. You'll be looking at the girls.
No. One thing that protects me and the people that I'm around is that it's very obvious if I'm doing video or taking photos.
Okay.
It's not like it's a hidden feature at all.
Oh, got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll have those glasses next week, but I'll be talking about them in a show 2 weeks from today.
Yeah, well, my pickleball partner just took a picture of me this morning. I wasn't happy.
Oh, no.
He was like this, and I said, what the hell are you doing? Took a picture and posted on Facebook.
Oh, I can't wait to see it.
Yeah,
Can't wait to see it. That kind of brings us up to the TikTok may be gone after tomorrow.
That's interesting.
Yeah, unless there's an injunction.
I don't think it's going to happen.
I don't think it's going to happen either, but where, and Don, chime in on this, I mean, there's millions of people on TikTok. Where's their attention going to go? What platform?
You tell us.
I don't have the crystal ball of where they're going to go. It's interesting, though, that, when you look at actionability, people tend to, I look at my daughter, and she's 35 years old. She's a mother of my 3 amazing grandchildren. She'll scroll through TikTok, but she really doesn't do anything. She just sees it more of just kind of, blatant entertainment. She doesn't really settle on anything. I don't think she's ever bought something as a result of TikTok. I don't think she's really significantly influenced. I think the issue with TikTok is the ability for potentially a foreign adversary to secure significant amounts of information. That's why, to me, social media is a tool. It's not a god. And I think that a lot of people have looked at it. Again, I'm a shoe leather sales guy. I think, the shaking of the hands. And that's why, to me, networking groups are so critical, because it starts where every other form of marketing hopes to end up, which is face-to-face.
Right.
So I see people put out, tens of thousands of emails, and if they get a 1 or 2% return, I mean, they're high-fiving up and down. And I'm like, that seems like a lot of work. If you go to a good networking event or a good chamber event or Rotary or Kiwanis or anything like that, you can interact with 20, 30, 40, 50 people. And to me, that's a much, much more, beneficial utilization. So I think the TikTok position is more of a national security effort, as opposed to, is this a real substantive player in the social media world? I mean, when TikTok goes, there'll be some other new thing that pops up.
Yeah.
I remember my first email address was AOL. And when was the last time you heard, you heard about AOL? Well, no, it's actually Comcast that played it up. But, it's the technology goes through iteration, so it will likely change, on its own volition.
Yeah, I think most of the attention, if indeed TikTok goes, it's going to go back to probably Instagram, because it's the most similar, So, but. We'll see. It's going to be very interesting.
Yeah. What's going on with Snapchat?
Yeah. I know Snapchat's never, the audience has never really matured. You know what I mean? Snapchat, I love Snapchat, but it's never been for me or my clients somewhere where, their audience is, their attention is.
What about TikTok? Has that been successful in regards to your marketing business?
I've had a client that has been paid out over $3,000 on TikTok because one of their videos went viral.
Oh,
yeah, a local client, and they've been paid out $3,000 in the last few weeks.
Nice.
So yeah.
I believe there's money there. My opinion is
there is.
The podcast world, however, is the 800-pound gorilla in the room.
Yeah.
What you're doing right now, the whole podcast world. Again, going back to my daughter, she watches no television. Listens to no radio, reads no newspapers or magazines. She selects what content that she wants on podcast.
Yeah.
And she has the ones that she's incredibly committed to. And I really do think that's the future. Television is not becoming more popular.
Yeah.
Magazines and newspapers are struggling, but you look at the explosive nature of the podcast world, and if you don't have a microphone in front of you, at least part of the time, you're really going to suffer, in my opinion.
And that was the whole idea of this show in itself, was to create, not only just position, ourselves, Juan, you and I, as, authorities in what we do as leaders, as small business owners, but, the content that we get from this show. Yes, we are live on the radio as we speak, but we're on video now too. So by Wednesday, Thursday, it'll be on YouTube and Spotify. Then I break up in all these little snippets and videos, and I put them all over the place on social media, right? So this in itself is that top of the funnel that Don's speaking, but ultimately it puts us in front of people, right? So then that's, I agree with Don 100%. I think podcasting, and I was ridiculed. We all know, I'm not going to say his name, but when I was talking about this idea of starting the show on my own, I was flat out told by somebody that was a dumb idea. And I think about that every single time I come in on Saturdays. I think about this dude, and I'm like, it gets me going. It gets me going, right? So I look at the show. This is the 21st show we've done already.
Wow,
congratulations and all
on
that content.
That's
and
awesome.
I get people talking about this show each and every day with me. How the show go? I saw this, I saw that. That your guest was great. What, every single day I get a comment about it, right? So I know it's working. It's put me in front of people that I would not have been in front of otherwise. So, but ultimately, again, it's the top of the funnel. But at the end of the day, you got to know how to shake hand, kiss babies, and close the deal, right? So we're about a minute left until the last break, Don. But, as we get into the next segment, Don, I want you to kind of be ready to tell more of your story, how you got into sales, why you're so passionate about it. Let's hear more about, what's behind the guy that, shows up and gets everybody pumped up at his networking events. So, and then Juan, I want you to chime in more about, again, why Don is our special guest today.
Okay.
Let's have some stories about him.
Oh, let's do that.
Welcome back to the Marketing Corner. We're talking about doing an event pretty soon, and I'm going to talk to you about. Don't tell anybody this, JD.
Except for all the people right here on the.
Yeah, someone's going to steal it. I'll tell you after the show, but I want you involved in it.
All right, let's do it.
I'll tell you involved. So.
Yeah, let's do it.
So before we get into the meat of this last segment, I always thank
The
John.
meat? We got the bread.
This is like the home stretch.
Okay, let's do
this
it.
is where it all happens.
It all happens
yeah,
right here.
Yeah, so I got to thank John, our engineer, for making all this possible, keeping us straight. All of our sponsors, Bill Netherton from Professional Bartenders, David Bradley, Medicare A to Z. David Bradley would be the host next week. He's all on his own. Candace Eaton, C. Eaton Photography, Danny McPadden, Last Bridge Media, Mark Weiss, Sales Performance Strategies,
Nice.
of course, Juan J.D. Ducato, Roofs Are Hot.
Roofs, not so much today.
Jose Oliver, Awakening Minds LLC, and Mo Russo, Executive and Business Coach. We are here with special guest Don Zavis. Don, why are you so passionate about sales?
I'll give you the Cliff Notes version.
Yeah.
In my family, being in sales was the absolute best thing in the world. So my dad owned the company that he always owned the company. So we owned our business when I was younger. And if you ask my dad what he was in sales. Now, if you ever saw the movie Mad Men,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
The Don Draper character was my dad. Take out the infidelity and the alcoholism and drug abuse. But that was my dad. You know, he always went to the most amazing places. Every 6 months got a brand new Lincoln. You know, he was going to Hawaii when, Hawaii just had barely become a state. I mean, we always had money.
Wow.
And in my world, sales was the best thing. Every time an event came to town, Dad had tickets. Every time, anytime you needed to know somebody, Dad would pick up the phone and call them.
Wow.
So I grew up in a world where it's like if you said your dad's a doctor, I'm like, geez, sorry for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hey.
Because sales was the greatest. And when I was younger, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to ask you, Don. So, tell me about your throwback Wall Street Gordon Gekko brand. I want to hear about that. And actually, I want to tell the story about when I first met you. I don't know if you remember this, but I remember the first time I met you at the B&I meeting. You showed up, and I saw you, and I was like, "Who the heck?" Because I'm a Tucson local, born and raised. I'm like, "Who the heck is this guy? This guy, he's not gonna make it here." You showed up. It was like 105 degrees outside. You're wearing your freaking white press shirt, suspenders, cufflinks with slacks, and a freaking jacket. I still remember it was a double-breasted jacket. It was a double-breasted blue jacket. You still have that?
Absolutely. You know what? I probably do because I take enormously good care of my professional clothing. So I could probably go out on a limb and say somewhere in the Zavis vault is that suit. I think to answer that question. When I was back in my heavy metal band days,
Nice.
We were not probably the best band, but I was really good at selling our band.
And you look good
Because
too.
I would go,
Yeah.
oh, absolutely, oh, yeah. Well, that's the '80s. The guys were prettier than the girls, right? So, but the idea is, I would walk into the bar and I would say, listen, what you want is people. I will get you people because I'll get the girls to come here. We did fashion shows. We did shirt swaps.
Oh, wow.
So if you came, and I mean, this is different. This is the 1980s. It's very different than today. But, if you came in and you were willing to swap the shirt that you had on, you would get a free, Zav, and the band name of the band was Zavis. and there are photos of these shirt swaps taking place. Now they weren't done. These weren't done in the confines of like a.
Oh yeah.
These were done on stage with every light we had on. And so what we found is that we would do all the things that would get women there, girls, which of course the guys followed.
Mm-hmm.
And we would have a full house, and we weren't even the best band. I mean, we were okay. We would get you dancing. But I remember when I opened my first business, I was 19 years old. I opened a chain of music stores called Davis Music, obviously as an adjunct to my thing. And what I realized is that, I'm talking to bankers and businesses, and I'm going into bars and selling them these very large PA systems and lighting rigs, and I'm, working with a lot of the, business players, and I would go into your school and I would, put in a giant, $50,000 PA system, in 19. Again, you're talking, the early 80s at the time when 50 grand was a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And what I found is, I would always have long hair. I would have a silver streak in it, and maybe I wasn't your atypical business owner. But I found out that if I showed up in a $1,000 suit and I had a good gift of gab, and I looked serious and I looked real, people took me real. And this was taking place right about the Wall Street days, right in that, mid 80s. And I looked and emulated Gordon Gekko, not in the, mean things that he did, but he had an incredible work ethic. He had a lot of the lines that he said, you take out all the thievery and things like that.
Right.
But a lot of what you found at that time was really, really good sales development content. So that's what started the white shirt and suspenders and, polished shoes and cufflinks and, super, expensive watches. Was I found that I could get away with just about anything if I looked like I was real. And the thing was, I just liked the look.
Yeah.
Right. When you're a sales trainer, that's like the armor of a sales trainer. You look when you walk into a room, and I always kiddingly say when I do speaking engagements, I could be, the great example, I was doing a thing with 300 plastic surgeons. Every single one of them is a doctor, right? I have a week and a half of college. Literally, I have a week and a half of college, and I'm gonna say something to these guys. So you better, you've got literally seconds to make that incredibly strong first impression. And mine was, you know what? I'm in it for the money.
Yeah.
I will not lie, cheat, and steal, but I believe that you can be rich beyond your wildest dreams and still be a person of honesty, ethics, and character.
Absolutely.
And that's what care. And I have no desire, I have no desire to not look that way, because I think that's a strong brand. But I think that's the image that I've been. I think everybody has a snapshot of where they feel comfortable, how they look, clothes they wear, things like that. And to me, it's the 17, 18, 19-year-old Don.
Yeah.
Just wrapped up in nicer clothes.
Yeah. Kind of a question off topic. Who's your favorite 80s band, Don?
Oh, there you go. That's a good one.
Well, we came from the hair band days, so ours were like the Rats, the very much Sunset Strip kind of bands that were out, the Poisons.
Yeah.
And that's why I always kiddingly say, the guys look prettier than the girls, because we would be in the dressing room and our girlfriends were putting the makeup on us. But it was fun. The thing was is that, it was happy and it was fun and it was optimistic and it was joyous and it was bombastic and it was colorful. I mean, I remember wearing pink spandex pants. And I'm
wow. That's going to be stuck in my head all day.
Well, yeah. And I trust me. Even then, I was not an attractive visage in spandex, right? But and then the '90s came around, and it was all dark and Nirvana and look at your shoes and hopelessness. And I always thought that there was some part of that '80s that never went away, and that's why the Van Halen music and the attitude, maybe a little bit of the look, is that very joyous, happy. Wonderful opportunities await us, and to me, I believe that's much of the sales world. If you believe it's bad, it is. If you believe it's good, it is.
Yeah,
you get to choose.
There's a book I recently finished listening to called Outliers. And
great book.
Yeah, and it's, you would think that, people that are successful is because they're grinding, they hustle, but a lot of it is when the era you were born and when you grew up and the people you're around. I always give credit to my, to what I do, to how I was raised. I was raised all over the world as a military brat, so I'm comfortable everywhere in any environment.
Yeah.
I'm uncomfortable when there's a bunch of people like me around. You know what I mean? I'd rather be in a dive bar that I don't know anybody, and I'm, that's where I thrive. I love being uncomfortable in that situation. So.
I think a lot of it too is you got to love what you do.
Right.
I mean, I love sales training and sales coaching. Yesterday, my first coaching session, started at 6 a.m. And I got home, and my last session ended up at the Kettle Restaurant at 9 o'clock.
Wow.
So when that's a 15-hour day.
Yeah.
But when you love what you do, it's almost like you're bummed that it ended.
Not work.
Yeah.
And I truly, truly love what I do.
Yeah, we're coming down to 2 minutes left in the show, Don. Real quick, how can someone reach out to you if they want some of your guidance?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, you can do a Google search for Don Zavis, and there is tons of my shameless propaganda that is out there. So finding me is never a problem.
Never.
You're going to get more hits. You're going to get more hits after this. Everyone's going to want to see your hair.
Oh, you know what? I started to glance at my emails this morning during my coaching session, and a lot of them were the networking session from yesterday. Everyone seems to have an opinion about a lot of the photographs. But phone number, very simple to get to, area code 248-497-5869. By the way, for those that know Michigan, 248 is the Michigan Exchange. I have offices in Michigan. I'm here in Tucson in an office in San Diego. You can certainly go to donzavis.com. That's our website. We actually have a new website that's going to launch this week, which is even going to be fabulouser. So donzavis.com.
Nice.
You can email me directly, donzavis@comcast.net. I respond to every email.
Yeah,
every email that you send, I will send something back because I really, and that's why people say, well, what do you do at 4 o'clock in the morning? It's like I'll do from 4 to 6 everything that you do from 8 to 10.
Yeah.
So when 8 o'clock comes on, I'm hitting the battlefield with my guns blazing. You're barely getting your first cup of coffee because I always kiddingly say my greed knows no bounds. But it's never that, steal, lie, cheat, steal thing.
What's your website? Again, Zavis?
Yeah. donzavis.com.
Yeah.
Right on.
All right. So thank you for being on the show, Don. And as we're getting to the last 30 seconds of the show, we'll let you go. Hold on, Juan. This last 30 seconds, how can someone get a hold of Roofs Are Hot?
RoofsAreHot.com. Just put it in your bar right there, Roofs Are Hot. And you can reach me direct, 520-444-3178. 520-444-3178. Thank you.
Tune in next week with David Bradley. He's going to be the host of the Marketing Corner. My name is Sean Campbell, and as always, I really appreciate you all. Have a great week, everybody.